Hello and welcome to the Planner Pals podcast, a podcast hosted by two true Planner Pals. My name is Mark, and I go by Mark Your Pages.
And I'm Jess, or Jashi Corinne, and I feel like we're starting off with an almost controversial topic for the new year. Who are we? Are we getting into planner drama? No, not so much. And before we start, you already know what we're here for. You've read the title. We are not coming for you, okay? We are not here to call you out or make you feel bad or anything like that, because I feel like a lot of the time when people start talking about overconsumption in any niche, it can get to a negative place pretty quickly. But what we are here to talk about is just thinking about, are we consuming too much? Maybe calling ourselves out more than calling you out? Which supplies are we most likely to overconsume in? And just a general kind of thoughts and feelings about overconsumption in the planner niche.
Yeah, and I'll outright say I am an overconsumption ally. When we chatted about doing this topic, I almost didn't want to do it because exactly like you say, I feel like every video that goes out about overconsumption, especially in the stationery space, there's just such shame that comes onto it. I mean, I had a bunch of followers, you included, pointed out that I was included in an overconsumption video from last year on YouTube. And I've watched it and I just laughed because they were like, here's somebody that I follow and they have over 100 notebooks. I was lying in that video, by the way. I have way more than 100 notebooks. So no, but no, I do. But still, it's just the idea of you can have fun with it. We know, we understand. And so we'll definitely be hitting on a lot of topics today. I think Jess and I and other creators maybe fall into a space where I feel like it might be a little bit our fault, but also as a part of affiliate marketing, as a part of being on these design teams and being influencers, and people are sending us stuff. I mean, the whole idea behind that, if, let's go ahead and pull back the curtain here, is that the idea of getting in front of people's faces so they'll want to buy it. Right? We get to talk about it, see if we like it and kind of go into it. But I think especially in the stationery space, and I'll get off my soapbox for now and probably jump back on it a few times this episode, I think it's okay, but maybe we just need to be a little bit smarter about how we approach it before we just kind of go all in, which Jess talks about all the time. She's a go all in kind of gal. So it gets a little bit difficult. I feel like when you start to be like, hey, everyone, calm it down, do as Jess says, not as she does.
I guess that's the kind of thing that I think about in terms of this topic is where is the line? And I think that it's different for different people. What I consider to be overconsumption for me might not necessarily be overconsumption for somebody else. In terms of bringing things into my stash, like supplies and notebooks and all of that, I also have a different limit for different types of supplies. I think that in the space of notebooks in particular, yeah, I'm probably overconsuming. I'm thinking about how long it's going to take me to use those things. And it's going to take me a hot minute. Whereas other supplies like pens and such, consumable items, not to say the notebooks aren't consumable, but they are sometimes faster and sometimes slower consumed than notebooks. The border there, the line at which we go from just consumption to overconsumption is somewhere different. But in terms of getting this conversation underway, in terms of overconsumption, what does that mean to you when it comes to planning?
Yeah, see, this is really hard because I feel like there's a few different things. There's an overconsumption of the actual items themselves, the notebooks, the pens, the markers, the gear. But I also believe that there's an overconsumption of the idea of planning and the idea of journaling, especially in our space when we talk about bullet journaling or DIY planning, whatever that is. People will overconsume that content so much that they don't want to start themselves, right? It kind of gets to the point where you are seeing it all the time. The algorithms be algorithming and they send you even more of the stuff. And then you're just inundated with all this information. And there are times, even for myself, where I don't need to consume any more planner content or any other stationery content. I'm okay. I understand it. But I do think that when it comes to the items themselves, and I think this is where in this space people talk about overconsumption more, is just buying it all of the time. And I find this conversation to be so difficult because I feel like most of us who love stationery are collectors at heart. We love the pretty things, right? We like the nice things, the niche things, the things you don't often see, which then makes us want to have them. And I think it just kind of, when you get it to be too much, I also think there's a level of hoarding that we always joke about, but there's this thing in this planner space. We know this, you want to buy that cool sticker set, but you don't want to use it quite just yet because you're waiting for that perfect moment. But you also have binders filled with stickers already that are ready to go. Like, how do we kind of figure that out? So I know I'm a little bit all over the place there, but I again, this topic itself really irks me because I don't have a problem with overconsumption because I live it. It's my life. I love it. It makes me happy. It makes me smile. But what about you, Jess? What do you think about this overconsumption definition and kind of where do you fall on the line of this?
Yeah, I think that overconsumption is definitely a problem in the planning space, but only so much in that I feel like we have this kind of like cyclical nature of things. So influencers, content creators, whatnot, they're putting out haul videos, anything like that. I'm not calling them out. It's cool. There's a reason you're doing it. It's because we lap it up. We're like, oh my God, yes, show me all of the good things. I want to see it. Like, let me be influenced, enable me, and all of that. So they put out the haul videos. We watch the haul videos. We shop from the haul videos, possibly. And then because that does well for the creator makes more of it. And it goes around and around type of a deal. Where we get to the overconsumption side of things, though, is when you're kind of like just buying things, not so much because you really want it or really need it, but because you feel like a sense of FOMO or a sense of urgency, or you're bringing more things into your stash than realistically you could actually need or want or actually going to use or anything like that. When it comes to creators, it doesn't even necessarily have to be that you're buying the stuff because a lot of the time you just get sent stuff, which I'm not going to snub my nose at. Absolutely love it. Love checking out the goodies and such. But when you get sent a package of like 10 notebooks all at once, I'm like, that's going to last me another 2+ years. Do I really need to get 10 notebooks at once? Maybe you could have just hit me up and said, hey, like, out of these designs, which one's your favorite? I'll send you one or two of them, as opposed to sending me the whole lineup. Again, not to say that I like don't want the whole lineup, because I'm not gonna, what's it? Look a gift horse in the mouth. I always say kick a gift horse in the face, and it's not the right terminology, but you get what I mean, right?
That poor gift horse. All he's trying to do is give you gifts and you're just attacking him. You're absolutely right here. I mean, we see this across the board in a lot of different spaces, not just stationery. There's a lot of like makeup stuff that comes across my feed sometimes. And there's, really big influencers. We're all seeing them too. And I think they are in the same spot, except in my opinion, with some of these things, I feel like these consumables, they have a shelf life on them, especially like I didn't know this until just recently as my girls and my wife has been into makeup for a while. But like a lot of that, like you open it up and it says like only good for 6 months. I don't know, Jess, if you see stuff like that. I'm sure people use it well beyond 6 months, but the idea is that has a shelf life, whereas I feel like stationery for the most part doesn't. So technically it could last longer. I think the biggest problem we really kind of come into, and you hit it right on the head, is when you said like, okay, one notebook, you typically last me a year. And so when you buy more than one notebook, in a way, you're kind of setting yourself up for multi-years. And then in our cases, when someone does send you more than 1, 3, 4, 5, you're like, okay, so now I have, enough for everyone. And I think like, okay, that is a lot now. And I also think, and we can get into this in just a little bit too, about like the maturity of a planner as well, because I can say definitely early on when I started planning, I wanted to consume all the things. I was so excited about it. What are the new pens? What are the new notebooks? What are the markers that people are using? And I was going out and I'd see them and I'd buy them because a lot of the times I felt like I needed that product to be able to do the thing that I was seeing online. I know now that's not true necessarily. Some things you do need specific tools to do, but it is just one of those like areas though, where I really do feel like we're a little bit safer in the stationery space because most things tend to last a while, pens and markers included.
Yeah, I think that they definitely do have a shelf life, especially if you've hoarded some of your stickers as long as I previously had. I'm thinking like stickers that I got in high school, and when I started journaling, I'm like, cool, I finally can use these. And like the time difference between when I got these stickers back in like 2006 versus when I started journaling in 2016, yeah, that sticker was not coming off that sheet. It had like fused to the material. So I was like ripping off the top layer of paper, not actually taking the sticker off the sheet. So while they do have a shelf life, it usually isn't as kind of like a quick turnaround compared to beauty products and such. And when you see some of those PR packages that the beauty influencers get and whatnot, who needs like 6 blushes all at once? I feel like one blush would last provided you're just ignoring the fact that it says, use within 6 months or whatever, that could last over a year, depending on how much you're actually applying it and how consistently you wear makeup and such. But it's kind of similar, I guess, with pens. Like, if we're thinking about the set of Tombos that I got, one of my very first purchases for journaling, because I was like, gotta catch them all, gotta have all of them, got a full set. Some of those still work. They still have ink, they're still writing and such, mainly because they're colors I don't gravitate towards as often. But I guess that also kind of opens up a question. Did I need to buy the full set? Given the fact that there are certain colors in that collection that I don't gravitate towards, don't use readily, probably would go as far to say I just do not like them, did she need to buy the full collection? Possibly not.
Well, I'm 100% there with you, just because I am very much a Pokemon collector of all the things. I mean, you see them, you want them. Eric Small Things, we all know this now, close to my heart, right? That's how I feel about her items, because I just am such a fanatic for them. So if I see a new stamp set, even when I don't need a new stamp set, if one comes out, I'm like, oh, I have to have it. And I think when we get into those things that we love too, you just want to kind of surround yourself with that. Maybe there's some deep underbelly of why we like to collect the things that we collect that happen in our childhood that, you need to talk to your psychologist about. But when you have adult money, it's a lot easier to like buy those things and have those things. I mean, I think there's definitely a line here when, if you can't afford to put food on your table, you should not be buying more notebooks or stickers or pens or any of those things. When we talk about this, whenever I mention fountain pens and I tell you how much one of them cost, we're like, oh God, it's a lot of sushi. There are times, I think, when everyone does want them. There was a video that I was watching where they're talking about Twisbees and how everybody wants a Twisbee and they want to collect all the Twisbees because they come in so many different colors. But do you really need every single one? Just because you like the color, that's great. Are you going to use it? How long, do you feel like you might have that? And I think that the only place where this gets a bit better for yourself, and I can't bring myself there yet, though, is some people who buy things and use them and then resell them. So there's a giant market, I feel like, for pens when it comes to reselling. How they have entire conferences and pen shows for people who are reselling pens, right? But I'm curious about what you think about the idea of doing the same thing with notebooks. Are we doing that because you can't really use a notebook and then give it away or sell it, right? So it's one of those things I feel like, have you done that?
Can't you? Because I've totally done that. No, I mean, I guess given the fact that we get as many, notebooks as PR and whatever, I've never really called it PR until I started kind of exploring this topic. Oh, fancy. Anyways, so given that we get these notebooks and such, and if I get them from brands that I haven't really, worked with before, or I haven't really experienced their notebook before, previously on the channel, I was making review videos to show this is the type of paper, this is the structure, these are the features, here's a pen test, that type of thing. But then after that, given the fleet of notebooks I have in my collection, I wasn't readily going to come back and use that one. So I have sold them on at a heavily discounted price. Most of the time when I'm selling things from my quote collection, or just from my house that I'm decluttering, I always price to clear. I'm just get it out of my house. I want it gone. I need shelf space or whatever. So I have sold on ones that have been used, but never, actually it's not even fair to say never. There have been maybe 2 or 3 that have had maybe the first 1 or 2 pages in them that have been used. And I've either stuck those pages together so it feels like a fresh, clean notebook, with the actual kind of notification to the person who's buying it, by the way, this has been used lightly, here are photos and whatever. I'm not just gonna be surprise, somebody's already used this. That would be a bit rude. But making it so that then it is cleared, price to sell, price to go. They get to experience the new notebook without having to pay the regular, maybe premium price of it. And it means that, in my mind, the way I like to think about it, the notebook can go and fulfill its destiny. It's not doing any good just sitting on my shelf. And by that, I mean sitting in my cupboard, because at least the ones on my shelves are kind of decoration or whatnot. I have definitely pared down the ones I'm using for decoration as part of my declutter last year, which was very satisfying, getting rid of over 100 notebooks, because I kind of came to the realization that, yeah, that was something I was over-consuming in. I didn't need as many as I had. The term over-consuming, though, gets me, because technically speaking, given how many get sent to me, it's well, I didn't choose this. I'm well, yeah, you accepted the package. They said, can you send us one? You gave them the address and kind of a thing. But because it was just gifted or given, it feels a little different, as opposed to something that maybe you have an out of control spending habit on or something like that. I don't think there's anything in my stationery collection or even life in general. Maybe I'm just, blinders on. I don't even know my own problems or whatnot. But I don't think there's anything in the kind of planner space or stationery space that I would say I overconsume. There are things that I have a lot of, but I didn't consume them myself. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Well, I think you're right. Like when you actually define like overconsumption, right? It's just this idea of like having too much. Like again, you are consuming more than you need. And I think that like it's maybe just something different than overconsumption, but that's just the word that we kind of use about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that the terminology part of it is the part that trips me up as well. But maybe I'm just going to turn it into like hoarding in my mind. Like, is there something that I'm hoarding? And yeah, there are probably things that I'm hoarding. Like, not to the extent of like previously on Hoarders, Jashi Corinne was doing crazy stuff with stationery or anything like that. But the way that I kind of use is like my metric of do you have too many things in this category is when I start to run out of drawer space. It's like, okay, cool. We need to open up another drawer for your tapes. Are we thinking that maybe we need to declutter or something? Do we need to go and find new homes for these things? Possibly.
And I just had to look up the actual definition of overconsumption because I'm always just like, well, again, it kind of reminds me of hoarding, but it says overconsumption is the excessive use of resources, goods, and services at a level that is unsustainable for the environment and harmful to individuals. So I think that it has a little bit more of like an environmental connotation to it, right, than just the idea of having too much. And I can understand that, right? It's just like you're buying a bunch of markers that are plastic, right? Like more than you need. But that's the problem is that it's like, is that making things unstable for the environment? Like, it's like overconsumption. Like, if anything, the notebooks would be right. They've got to make paper. That's tearing down trees. I don't think that we are contributing to deforestation by having notebooks, right? But I guess somebody could maybe connect it. I don't know. The topic itself, like I said, I have a really hard time talking about it because I do feel like exactly like we said in the beginning, is that the people who are making those videos and talking about it, they're doing it because there are people out there that are much more aware and conscious and judgy. I'll outright say it. I feel like I've never seen a positive comment come out of this conversation. It's always like, you're buying too much and you're the reason that people are over consuming because you're talking about it, because it's social media, it's influencers, all these things that are making it worse. But also that's marketing. This has always been marketing. At the end of the day, it's business and marketing, right? It's getting things in front of you. It's the clothes you wear, the things you eat, like all of those things. Like that's what bothers me about it so much. And like if you're unaware of that, like maybe again, because I have a background in it, I see right through it all the time, but I'm also the impulsive buyer. I am the person literally that Instagram ads are made for. When I just bought my new mechanical keyboard, I was thrown ads. I saw it so many times. And then finally I was like, I'm buying it today because I really want it. Did I need it? No. Do I also have other ones? Sure. But it's not like I'm throwing those away. I will reuse them at another time. I will switch it out. I will fall out of love with it and come back to it again. And maybe that's how I could look at notebooks, and I can look at pens and things like that too. I mean, I've got literally a tower of them behind me of pens that I haven't used in a while. I did a pen test for my bullet journal that I'm using this year, which if y'all haven't seen that, Hemlock and Oak, what? Not Arch and Olive, I know. But when I was doing that pen test to see how that paper held up, I was pulling stuff out of there that I haven't used in like flares. I haven't used a flare marker. I can't even tell you when, but I was like, oh, I have glitter ones in there, Jess. I didn't know that I remembered I had them in there, but I'm still using them. I'm not just buying them to throw them away because I don't like them anymore. So I don't know. It's just like, it's a lot. I know that we chose to talk about this, but it still just bothers me because the people that are making those videos, I'm sorry, but they're hypocritical.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can see that Mark is like a little bit tilted now. He's feeling a little attacked. It's okay, Mark. We're not coming for you. We're not going to take your pens away. It's going to be fine. I think that the thing that gets me the most about overconsumption or like overconsumption core or whatnot, the one that bothers me the most is the videos that are like, not necessarily, I can't even say they're not necessarily promoting overconsumption because I feel like they kind of are, but the ones that are showcasing, here are all of the items, here are all of the things or whatnot, and they show you how it's used, but to the extent where they're just kind of wasting the materials to show the use of those materials. That's the thing that irks me. We don't get, or at least not in my algorithm, we don't get a lot of that in stationery, I feel. But in terms of like, I don't know, restocking content and cleaning supplies and such, you know, those really rage baity ones where they like overfill the bottle and it like spreads out all over the table, and they're like, oh well, now I'll use my new cloth to like clean it up. It's like, you didn't have to do that. You could have just filled the bottle normally and then you wouldn't have wasted the material. It's just there to get people to comment to say like, why are you overfilling the bottle or whatnot, which I will not feed the algorithm. I will not give them what they want. I will just be annoyed and scroll on. But I don't see a lot of those videos, to be honest. In terms of thinking about like overconsumption versus just regular consumption and where that kind of line is for people, I think that one of the biggest issues is we end up having people using FOMO as an excuse to buy things that they don't realistically need. Like they're bringing them into their collection, but they're not actually going to use them. They don't really want them. It's just something that, you know, the algorithm has fed it to them enough to say, hey, I think you actually need this. I think you actually want this. Which the buying of an item is not the issue here. I think it's the unintentional, or the unintentionality behind it. You're kind of putting yourself on autopilot, bringing things into your collection because you feel that kind of like drive or like need to have the thing. Oh my gosh, this is going to be like, you know, the thing that turns my planning into like, you know, ultimate deluxe level 12 type deal. And I'm going to be so organized. I'm going to get my life together. I'm a new person type thing because I bought this pen. And that's not what happens. Oftentimes, either you kind of like build it up in your head that you're really excited about this thing, you get it into your collection, you start using it, and you're like, oh, cool, I actually don't like this. It doesn't work for how I like to do things. It doesn't work for how I like to plan. And then it just sits there in your collection making you feel guilty because you bought it in, having these really high expectations of the thing, really excited about adding that to your lineup or to your collection of stationery items or whatnot, and it just didn't fulfill the hype. That's one of the traps that I think is part of the overconsumption kind of like issue, I suppose, is just ending up with a bunch of things that make you feel more guilty than joyful about the stuff that you're using. Now, I don't think you have this problem, and I think that that's possibly why you get your heckles up a little bit when we talk about this topic, because when you're bringing things into your collection, although it may be seen to others as like, oh, that's too much or quite a lot, you love these things. You're supporting businesses that you want to see like stay in business and, you know, celebrate their art and whatnot. And you're also not necessarily bringing them into your collection. This is going to sound bad, okay? Just give me a second. You're bringing things into your collection that you're not necessarily bringing in specifically for use. It's more so for the like celebration of the art form behind that item. And what I'm thinking about here in particular are fountain pens.
I knew we were going here.
Because if you think about what the quote purpose of a fountain pen is, it's the one and done. It's supposed to be the pen that keeps on penning. You don't throw that away. You get your fountain pen, you refill it with ink, you use it forever type of a deal. So in theory, you should only need one. But how many do you have?
I'm not going to say that word out loud, that number out loud. I do know how many I have because I did go through my entire collection at the end of the year and audit, and I have all of them. You're absolutely right. It is for the art. I mean, the whole reason that I have my pens displayed up behind me, and I literally said that when I created my office space here, is I want it to be a functional art installation because pens are beautiful. The artistry behind them is amazing. I love the colors. I love how they're made. I am of the Pokemon, you know, gotta collect them all. But from a standpoint of, I don't want many pens that look exactly the same. I want them to look a little bit different, not just in color, but in how they work, how they fill. You know, there's so many different materials that they're made out of. There's a lot of them there, and there's an appreciation for them as well. And I think something I said right at the end of the year, it's not really a New Year's resolution, it's more of just a resolution for myself and just understanding I am limited in my space. I was saying this to my wife at the end of last year as we were going into it. Me moving to this smaller space for my office versus down in the basement where I typically had unlimited space unlimited, but more space than I have now. This has really limited me down and made me really think about, do I want to bring in another item? Because I'm not also taking up room in the basement, other than I do have 2 boxes filled with notebooks that I want to use, but they cannot fit in this space, right? And so I have them all cataloged digitally. I know where they are. They're in a box. They're safe. They will be used eventually, right? I'm not saving them for the use of not using them. It's just that I have other ones out. But At the same time, I feel this is similar with like Archer and Olive notebooks. This is why we get into that FOMO, is because the covers are really great. This is something like the one issue that I have with my notebook that I'm using at the start of this year is a pretty plain Jane. And I didn't think that that was going to be something that really it is not bothering me, but I don't enjoy it like I did with my previous notebooks that have cool designs on them, right? Like it feels so much more personal. This is a blue linen covered, notebook. I love what's inside. I love the grid paper. I love the way it looks. I love that it's something new and different. But it's just like things like that are like, oh, this is a cool new design that I don't have, that I means something to me. I'm not just buying any random notebook to buy it. I'm buying it because it means something to me, or I'm thinking of somebody, or I have an idea for it. But it is also just the appreciation for a really good design notebook. Also, at the end of the day, it's a piece of art to me, especially like that Archer and Olive one from last year was almost mine. I think it's yours, right? You're using the Slytherin looking snake one, right?
Yeah, the coiled key design, absolutely gorgeous.
And so stuff like that you see and you're like, oh, I have to have this in my collection because that's a beautiful design, right? That notebook wouldn't mean very much to you if it was just green, right? No, it has beautiful, intricate designs. It's very beautiful. And you also know that it's going to work for what you want it to do too. And therefore, you bought it. Do you also already have a lot of other square notebooks and other notebooks in your collection? Absolutely. But you don't have that one.
It is very that, isn't it? I think that the limited edition, limited release type deal also is something that kind of drives, we're just going to call it consumption. It drives the consumption of the stationery materials and such. Like when this is the one I have problem with. When Mildliner drops their new range of colors, you know that Jess is going to buy it. Does she use Mildliners? No, but it's the completionist in me. The completionist in me is like, oh, but yep, got to catch them all. Got to have all of them. That being said, with Mildliners, given how often they release new colors, maybe it's like a pack of 5 or something a year, that's something that I don't feel particularly bad about bringing more of into my collection, especially because I have actually started using the Mildliners a little bit more. I know, who is she? But I find that where the real problem lies is with the limited release of colors in pen brands that like their range is already quite extensive, but it's that completionist in me that's like, oh, you need this new set, you need this new set. And that was something that I found myself doing with calligraphs in particular. I was just kind of almost mindlessly purchasing the calligraphs because I had kind of established this identity of like, I am a completionist. I must have the full set of colors. So regardless of what colors are in the new set, I'm going to bring it into my collection with kind of limited regard towards what colors do you already have? Do you already have these colors in a different type of brush marker? Are these colors you actually like? Will you actually use these? Probably not. You barely touch your calligraphs. Maybe we shouldn't do this. So I have stopped kind of, I don't know, knee-jerk reaction type thing, stopped buying calligraphs. But I'm still getting sent them, so it's really not that helpful. And this is where the issue is, right? Because we are, in the stationery niche and have a large enough kind of subscriber base or community or whatnot, that brands kind of look at us and go, oh, I'm going to send them a thing because they'll talk about the thing and then more people will buy the thing. So that kind of like cumulative causation, like feeds the cycle, feeds the bringing in of things. I think in terms of another cycle that worries me a little bit, especially for myself, is the idea of like acquiring, appreciating, getting overwhelmed, and decluttering. And then we just go around and around and around. Because part of my core identity is saying, yes, decluttering is my favorite sport. I love getting rid of things, but that's just because I think in my soul, I strive to be a minimalist, but what I really am is an intentionalist. So I like to curate and get rid of things that I'm not using and find new homes for them. That doesn't mean that I'm like, contributing to landfill. I suppose we're all kind of contributing to landfill at some point in our lives. And by that, I mean, after we're gone, all of our stuff is going to the tip eventually. But that aside, because I enjoy decluttering and I enjoy getting rid of things and enjoy making it so that then the stuff that I have in my collection is just the stuff that I like. But I also have that kind of semi-continuous bringing in of new materials and not necessarily intentionally because they're being sent to me by somebody else. I worry that I am kind of like perpetuating this culture of like, oh yeah, overconsume, get rid of the stuff. Overconsume, get rid of the stuff. I don't mean for that to be the case, but I do worry about it.
I think the big difference, though, I mean, because again, if we go back to the definition, yeah, if you are over consuming and you're purging and just throwing it all away, absolutely, then you are contributing towards that overconsumption because you're doing exactly as it's defined. But I think what's different with you, because I know you and I've seen you do this before, is that you are giving them other lives. You're giving them away. You're having people purchase them. You've come to understand. And in the very beginning of the episode, I said that we were going to get to this point. I'm glad that we made it here. Is I think that also as creatives, as planners, as stationery lovers, we also start to mature in that. If you think all the way back to when you very first started, everything was new, right? All the fine liners, all the markers, all the Tombos, all the notebooks. There was so much that was happening. And we tend to want to try to get it to learn to see what we like. I bought a lot of pens. I still have a lot of pens that I just don't love. And so a lot of the times I think back and saying, you know what I should have did instead? I should have just like went to the store because so many of them have them available for you to try before you buy them, right? And they don't do it with the notebooks necessarily. And I want to bring this back also to like the responsibility of creators as well, influencers on this too, is that I think that we need to be very truthful when we are reviewing those items so that we can help people make the best decisions. I think early on, I was like, someone sent me a thing, I have to say nice things about it. Or, oh, I was paid to do this, I have to say nice things about it. And I think that what I've learned over time is that that isn't helpful. If I'm like, oh, this notebook's amazing and blah, 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 and behind the camera and after I turn it off, I'm like, this is garbage and throw it away. It's not, to me, it's not worth the, $1.50, right, of commission that I might make off of a sale of something like that. I'm very intentional now about my reviews, about what I think about things. Not that I am the person that people should be looking for, but you should be doing your research. You shouldn't just be looking at my video and Jess's video of me say, oh, we love Archer and I love notebooks. They're the best notebooks in the world. Look at other people, see what they're saying, right? And see if you really feel strongly about that. If enough people are saying that it's good, then more than likely it is. I don't think that everyone is under the thumb of the marketing brain, just like you're going to say it's amazing no matter what because you want to make that sale. No, I think that a lot of us are just at that point now too, where we're like, I know what I like. If I see something new, I'll talk about it. But like, I'm not going to recommend something now if it's really bad. I might not trash it. I might not say, I'll be like, well, it's not really for me for these reasons. I'm not going to completely like dumpster fire it. But I think it's just really important to do that so that people who are just getting into it, just learning about it, maybe don't feel that need to overconsume to kind of do what we did early on, like learn from our mistakes essentially. And like you said, like buy one really nice pen instead of like 20 really crappy pens.
Yeah, no, I find that like in terms of materials and such that I will quote quote promote, which I try not to promote specifically. It's more so just like a, hey, I'm showcasing what I'm using, which in a way is promotion. So, grains of salt or whatnot. But if there is a product that I don't like, it doesn't get a mention. It doesn't stay in my collection long enough for me to actually, showcase it or anything. And one in particular that I think stands out in my mind at least is we had a mutual friend who said like, oh, hey, insert brand here, which we're going to talk about in a second. I don't even know why I said it that way, but whatever. Insert brand here has affiliate program or whatnot. They send you a free pen if you sign up. And so they were raving about this pen, love this pen. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? I'll test it out. So I signed up. It was Tom's Studio. It was their Lumos pen. And I got it and I was like, this is fugly. I do not like this pen at all. I didn't even ink it up because I just couldn't stand the way the pen looked. And when you unscrewed it, it made that squick noise. And I was like, absolutely not. This is not for me. So that pen didn't really get any airtime on my channel outside of, I think we did a whole video to say like, hey, this is the stuff that just arrived recently. Like, let's have a look. And this is also in part why I don't do haul videos anymore, because I don't know yet if I actually like the stuff. And if I don't like the stuff, I don't want to give it the airtime. So that Lumos went to live somewhere else. I sold that one on to somebody who was much more excited about the prospect of it. They love their pen. They love the rose gold feel and like nature of it and blah, 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 blah. Yes, you can feel rose gold. We're going with it. Okay, she's going off script. Just let her be. But that pen did not go to landfill. So in my mind, it's not overconsumption, or at least by the definition. That part of the definition, I'm winning.
Well, the best part about Top Studio is literally their brand is built off of not over consuming plastic materials. And that's why you technically buy one and you shouldn't really need more than one. However, I have three right in front of my face and I have two wrens. It's just one of those things where you're just like, oh, this is cool. And again, it is a part, like I said, in that case where sometimes you do get things sent to you, you're not even asked for them. They find homes for me. I mean, there's a lot of things. And at this point now, we all know that like I love pens. I love fountain pens. I love regular pens. I know, surprise, surprise. So I will find a use for it, right? But I think it is just one of those deals now, though, too. Like I will often try to gift things. Like everyone I work with loves when we come into the office because I always bring goodies. I already told them we're going to work next week. And I was like, I've got so much stuff from like the holiday season and stuff like that, that like I didn't either gift or give away or do anything with. You know, I have a stack of notebooks that I would love for you all to have. And they're like, this is amazing. You know, I always say like my wife always, she has more notebooks. She's starting to grow notebooks and she gives them away to her friends too at school, you know, or other students and whatnot, because it's just like, same as we talked about. I want them to go to good spaces and things like that. It's not to say that like those items necessarily are ones that I don't love, but I will tell you that a large majority of them are definitely the ones that I don't love. If I'm, you know, testing things out and it bleeds through the paper, it's like ultra ghosty, immediately no. You know, it's just, I just know that now and it's going to make its way somewhere else. And so it's always like when someone, you know, does send me something, it's almost like now they know like Mark can't use fountain pens in there. Like, I don't want you to give us a bad review because our paper isn't fountain pen friendly. I'm like, cool, good to know, right? And that way, like, I'm not taking a look at that and trying to use fountain pens in it when it's not supposed to be. But it just becomes difficult in our kind of space. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, we're definitely contributing to this topic and this conversation by kind of the part of it, but also I love sharing cool things with people. That's why I won't say that I don't care, because I don't want people to overconsume for the sake of it. I don't want that to be the end result, but I want to help people make good choices. It's just like but I never know what people like. I don't know. I mean, I feel bad with this idea of the overconsumption part, because you do feel bad about like if you are contributing to something that is negative or poor. I just think it's really important that we try to do better with it. But I don't know. That's why I kind of get stuck in this spot, Jess, because I was like, I'm pulled in two sides because I love what I do as a fun time job. I love talking about notebooks and pens and sharing cool stuff and making videos and reviews and sharing ideas. But then like the other side of me is just like, am I the problem?
I think that for me, it's like the purpose or the intentionality around the sharing type deal. Because if we think about it in terms of not plan a niche, if we think about something else just for a second. So one of the ones that I've kind of come across recently is the idea of like, you know, restock my purse restock station. It's like essentially it is a space in their home somewhere that the intention behind that is just having a bunch of little bits and pieces that they can kind of pick and choose from when they're walking out the door. Like they've got their purse, it's empty, they go and pick up a scrunchie and a hair clip and a hand sanitizer, and they've got like 16 hand sanitizers or something ridiculous. Or those kind of like, you know, little moist towelettes or whatever that you soak in water and they expand, but they're kind of the one-time use. They're wrapped in plastic. Like all of these things are usually single individual use wrapped in plastic type deals. Or they're not, and they've got 16 of them, and you're just like, why do you need 16 hand sanitizers? Like that's a lot of sanitizer. You're trying to sanitize your life? Probably, because that's a lot of stuff for that. So in thinking about the purpose behind that content, it is to showcase a whole bunch of products without any kind of like review of them or talking about like the benefits of them or kind of giving any actual additional information. It's just the aesthetic of having all of the things in the tackle box all perfectly laid out and something like that. That is not what I would consider to be meaningful content, at least not for me. I mean, first of all, I don't need a purse restock station, but secondly, I just don't need all of those little bits and pieces kicking around the bottom of my purse. There'll be no space for my receipts. Oh my gosh. But if we think about that more in terms of planning, I don't see a lot of planning content that is just like, hey, come and fill up all of my pen drawers, or come and like, you know, restock my eraser drawer. Like I need one eraser. I've had the same eraser since high school. No, not even that. Since middle school, I have had the same eraser because that is how like much it actually gets used. I'm not going to go and buy a new pack of erasers that has like a set of 4 to 16 or whatnot and be like, oh my gosh, guys, you like have to get this eraser. This is the best eraser, just for the sake of putting together a video. And I think that in terms of your content that you're making, yes, some of it is to showcase like the love of the stationery and such, but you're also providing meaningful information through reviews. It's not just like, hey guys, here's like 16 notebooks I got like in the last 2 days. Shop, like, and subscribe, and nothing additional to kind of back it up. Like, There's the appreciation of the artistry, the appreciation of supporting a small brand a lot of the time, actually showcasing what that journal is good or not good for and whatnot. So I feel like if there's a bit more substance to the content, then the consumption at least feels like it has more of a payoff rather than just, here's a bunch of cool shit, go and buy it. If that kind of makes sense.
It totally does. And one of the things that I was thinking about as you were saying that too is this idea about like the visual aesthetic of it, right? Like if you were to see that purse refill station and there was one chapstick, one hand sanitizer, and one little moist towelette, and they picked up those things and put them in their purse, there would be nothing on that table, you know? So like, you're like, okay. And I remember in the video that I'm thinking of specifically that talked about overconsumption that mentioned me in there, I watched the whole video because I was very interested in the topic and kind of the angle of it. And they were talking about people who contribute towards overconsumption often, especially on YouTube, will use those items in their background because they are visually appealing. Dee, 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 right? And so I think like, yeah, because how boring would it be to look at me or, you know, or like my stuff, like there's a level of like trusting, right? That I think also happens. It's not to say I know everything about this because I have a lot of it, but kind of, you know, I have a lot of fountain pens. I'm not just putting them on my wall to put them on the wall. I'm using them throughout the year. If you have a question about a fountain pen, let me know. So I think there's a piece of that. Or if you're looking into a notebook, I mean, who am I going to ask for notebook advice? Am I going to ask the person who is in front of a blank wall and is just talking to you and, hey, trust me that I know about notebooks? Or am I going to lean towards somebody that clearly has a problem?
I'm like, they trust the person who clearly has a problem. But I agree. There's something to do with like looking the part type of a deal. Like you're more likely to take business advice or whatnot from somebody who is a little bit more done up as opposed to like some guy who's in his flip flops with his cap backwards and a stained shirt sitting there on his mom's couch in his mom's basement or like whatever, you know. There's something in that, like actually looking the part, looking like you kind of know what you're talking about. And when it comes to pretty much any niche or whatnot, there's usually something that kind of gives those visual cues that the person has some kind of level of credibility.
Yeah, and I also think too, it would be different if I was buying the things behind me for a prop. If I was purchasing notebooks and pens and all of this for colors just for it to be a prop, absolutely overconsumption. Like, don't do that, right? Like, I think there's things you have as decoration, and that's okay, right? But like, the bookcase behind you has notebooks on it that you will eventually use. You didn't purchase all of those in a rainbow order just to have and sit there. Is it in a rainbow order because you had to get the rainbow? Yes, absolutely. But like eventually you'll use those things. The pens I have behind me, I will use. The notebooks, the everything will be, it is used. It's like active. I call it like active inventory. You know, it's like I have it back there. It's here. Yes, it looks nice. That was on purpose. I don't think you want to see a messy desk and like crap all over the place as it is surrounding me. But like what I show you on camera looks very nice. But that's on purpose because I'm very proud of the things that I have right in doing that. And again, I know this is different for those who don't show their face or talk on the internet or do YouTube or any of that. If you are a person at home that loves stationery, you may not be displaying it. People may never, ever see that. But like, who cares? Like, even if I didn't have a YouTube channel and do a podcast and these things, I still loved stationery before I started bullet journaling and doing this. It just got to be a lot more because I had adult money to then suddenly do that. But like, I tell people this story all the time, and I don't know if I've said on the podcast or not. Like, I love stationery so much that when I was a kid and people used to ask, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I used to say, I want to work in an office because I love office supplies. I had this perfect vision of sitting in this office at the desk with all my favorite stationery surrounding me, all the little nooks and crannies of all the cool things, and just loving what I was doing because I had all of that there. And I actually have a picture, like when I finally got like a big boy job and I got my own office, I was managing people and I set up my desk and everything. And I took a picture and I was like, in my mind, I've made it because I kind of accomplished what I wanted to do from that thing. It's always been there. It's just I've just kind of matured and accrued things over time, and I love them. And no one can tell me anything bad about that.
Absolutely not. Mark will just live in his delusion forever. Whereas I, on the other hand, am kind of like, okay, yeah, maybe I did just get it for a background. Did I? Was it just for that? Like, did I buy this notebook just because it was part of the rainbow? Yeah, I definitely did that. And now, as I've kind of come to realize that about myself, I got a lot more intentional about what I was keeping in my stash. It didn't go to landfill. It got, gifted on or sold on or whatnot. But knowing that I obviously have some kind of like part of my personality that will lean into the tendencies of like, gotta catch it all, gotta like, complete the rainbow, completionist mindset or whatnot, what kind of collections am I actually going to bother starting based on the fact that that is a tendency I have? Because, people with their Ferris wheel press ink bottles, gosh dang it, they're so bloody cute. And I'm like, I want them and I want the Ferris wheel and I want. You don't need it. You haven't filled up Iris. She's still sitting here just like, I'm thirsty. Please help me. I need ink. You're not going to use those inks, so we're not going to start that collection. This is what I know about myself, because if I start collecting that kind of thing, I will probably fall into a habit of buying stuff that I'm not going to need, not going to use, all of that. So I guess in terms of thinking about ways forward, all right, because this has been a very interesting conversation, I feel, because like your mindset is just like, don't come for my stuff. And I'm like really trying to reassure you, Mark, we're not coming for you. It is okay. This is a safe space. And for you planner pals, it's all good if you want to collect stationery. We're not trying to pry your pens out of your hands. Go live your joy, right? So ways forward though. If you feel like you are at risk of over-consuming in your stationery kind of purchases or planning related supplies, one of the things you can do is give yourself kind of a wait period. So if you see an item that you're like curious about, you're like, ooh, maybe I need dot markers because Jess keeps hyping them up and she loves them so much. So now I obviously need them or whatnot. Just give yourself a set period of time to think it over. Maybe it's just the kind of excitement or enthusiasm you have for it in the moment, and this too shall pass. And in a couple weeks, you're like, no, I really don't need dot markers. I have absolutely no need to put little dots on my page. I don't need to highlight individual things on my task list. I just wouldn't get a lot of use out of that. And possibly, on the other hand, maybe in a couple weeks' time, you're like, actually, no, I'm still really keen on this idea and I think I will go and test some out. Do an ooch. You don't have to buy the whole set at once. Unless you're me and you tell yourself you have to, but you don't have to. You don't have to do that. You can just get one or some. They sell them in individual packs. You can do this. I believe in you.
I mean, the one thing I've been doing now as a way forward to, not because of the fear of over consuming, it's literally the fear of running out of space. Like I'm at a max capacity, is I do exactly what you said. And then I actually go and I look at and I touch the things that I already have. So inks, you just mentioned with Ferris wheel press, that's actually a really fantastic topic or like example there, is because like I'm a part of that program and I get 2 to 3 inks each month and I will never be able to use that many inks in a month. I love inks. They're a very easy thing to collect and have and do. So like now it's like, okay, I don't need to go and buy other inks because there are other ways that those are coming in. And if I already have one that is similar to that, I've actually been just putting them to the side to take, there's a stationery store a little further away from me. It takes a trip there, but they have an ink, like a free ink section. And I'm just going to take bottles there. Someone else is going to love those inks eventually, right? And really love those things. And I think that's great. But I think just the activity of saying, oh, that's a new stamp that I want. I saw that. It's like, let's go ahead and look through the stamps that we already have first. Because I think more than often than not, you're actually going to find, you probably have something similar, or you're going to find something that you forgot that you had. And that excitement kind of shifts from like what you saw into the new thing that you have. Do it with your pens, do it with your markers. Like I said, when I did my pen test, I was pulling stuff out of these things that I haven't looked at in a while. And I was like, I totally forgot that I had this. And like now I bring it out on my desk and I'm like, I'm going to use this for because now I remember that I have it. I didn't need to go out and buy new pens for that. Even if I was like, oh, I really could use a brush pen, look through your drawers and see what you have and do that. Wait until you really kind of figure it out. And as a person who's very impulsive, and I know that it's in my soul and being, it's just like, taking that moment before adding it to cart and buying it. These websites and everything have made it way too easy for us to one click and have it here, in a day. The other day I ordered something and it was like going to take 2 days to get here. And I was like, 2 days? I was like, I paid good money for this to get to me tomorrow. But it's just this overall idea of, I'm just like, I want it now because in that moment I was thinking about it. By the time it actually gets here in 2 days, more than likely I'll be like moved on on something already. It's a whole other idea, new thing that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think another possible way forward could just be if you're finding that you are a little concerned about like your planning supply or stationery supply buying habits, is just consider the kind of content that you're consuming. Because oftentimes, I find at least that a lot of my wants when it comes to anything are dictated by my algorithm. If I have a lot of content that's coming up on Instagram Reels, that's where they get me. It's always the Instagram Reels. But if I have a lot of content on there that's showcasing the same kind of stuff repeatedly and, you know, maybe incentivizing me to purchase that type of thing, you can press those three dots. Tell Instagram you don't want to see it because it cares more about you staying on the platform than it cares about you going and shopping somebody's link, right? They will respond in such a way that will get those things out of your feed quickly if you repeatedly tell it, like, no, I don't want to see this. And I definitely think I need to start doing that on my Instagram for some particular topics because I'm just like so easily getting sucked down a Reels hole, I swear.
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, some of the best things I have are like they're like Japanese stationery companies, and I can't get those things here. And I just use that as my excuse not to do it. But it's just a funny little thing where I'm like, that's really cool. Well, I can't get it, so I'm not going to worry about it. I can appreciate it from afar, maybe something in the future, but right now, maybe not. But Planner Pals, we would love to hear from you on this topic. This can either be about the topic of overconsumption, or I would love to hear about like your perspective on this when it comes to stationery itself. And, do you really feel like there is a level of overconsumption inside of the stationery space? Are you doing it yourself? Or do you feel like this is just where we live? So definitely let us know. You can drop a comment on this YouTube video or Spotify. You can also email us, plannerpalspodcast@gmail.com, and hit us up on our socials as well at Planner Pals Podcast.
Yes, definitely don't call Mark out because he will not respond kindly. But if you want to call me out, it's cool. I think I've developed a thick enough skin that I can handle the jandle. Very keen to hear about your thoughts on this topic, though, Planner Pals. And as always, thanks for watching.